stadium and from around the world.
Hello. Off to a banner start there with a froggy little voice. My name is Adam Jacobi. GoIowaAwesome.com. Welcome to the Iowa Sports Review, a show where we take your questions, really make a mess of them, sometimes answer them correctly, sometimes don't, sometimes just tell jokes. All in all, though, we're here for you. So if this is your first time watching, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome. Welcome to everyone, really. No need to make distinctions here. So this is a big week. This is a fun week. This is Iowa's first cupcake of the season, and they'll be going up against Kent State. The Hawkeyes are highly ranked early in the season for the first time since well before I was born, and probably before most of you were born too. So rarefied air, and obviously the sort of situation that causes a lot of us to be concerned, especially after the last 20 years of the Kirk Ferentz era. But you know what? It's okay if I get overconfident, right? I'm not on the team. I'm not talking to the players. I'm not the one blowing smoke up their patooties. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be overconfident, and I'm going to say that Iowa already right now is looking like the best team in the Big Ten, and the best team in the Big Ten quite often, almost always, goes to the college football playoff. So am I calling Iowa to the college football playoff right here, right now on September 15th? Answer, yes, I am. Absolutely. Because I can do that, right? Like, I can do whatever I want. This is my show. And Dan doesn't want to waste the money on promoting the show if he's going to just kick me off after 2 minutes. So you're stuck with me. I'm just going to make these bold predictions, and we're going to have a wee of a time with it. All right. So if you've got any questions, any hot takes, because, I mean, this is the place for them, head on down to YouTube, click in there into the chat window, type in whatever you want. We'll read it, we'll answer it, and we'll have ourselves a wee of a time. This is all for you. And while you're there on YouTube, make sure to click like, make sure to click subscribe. That's the way that we build this community for you guys, right? All I am is a talking head, and a really, really, really beautiful one too. I mean, I'm gorgeous. But all I am is I'm just one voice. I'm just one man. The real value comes from community, and the bigger we grow that, the more fun it is for you guys. And we also get, more questions that way. So, hey, look, you might as well, while you're here, ask me whatever you want. We're dealing with a top 5 Iowa team, arguably the second best team in the nation right now. Arguably, certainly the best defense in the nation. Let's enjoy it. Let's have some fun. Let's watch Kent State get rolled on Saturday afternoon. Looking forward to it. Oh boy, this show is brought to you by LaCroix Curate. That is multiple languages that I don't know how to speak. So I'm going to assume that this is Portuguese for fun bubbly water. Who's going to tell me I'm wrong? Nobody. It is quite good, though. All right. So after those first 2 weeks, which are, it's pretty hard to argue anything less than the best 2 weeks that anyone in college football has had this season. Where do we go from here? And the answer is finally, a team that Iowa should beat pretty easily. The spread is, last I saw, 22 points, 21 or 22 for Iowa to beat Kent State, which for a Kirk Ferentz team like that's a normal team being favored by 50, right? Because Kirk Ferentz is not going to run up the score on a cupcake opponent unless it's a coach that he hates. And usually he only does that in the Big Ten, and he's quite effective at it. That's always fun. I think he's and I don't know anything again about Kent State, but they probably don't have a coach with history with Ferentz. So yeah, 3 touchdowns is probably where they're going to get as a margin somewhere, I would say, in the middle of the second quarter. And then it's just gear down all the way through from there. And honestly, they could use that. All right, Sam has a question here from YouTube. And just a little reminder, all you have to do is go into that little window at the bottom right. Look, I pointed in the right direction this first time, it's sort of difficult because it's mirrored. But just go to the bottom right, type your question into chat, and we will be happy to answer them for you. Sam asks, did you go to the game Saturday or just tailgate? If so, any thoughts on the in-person game atmosphere, whatever? I did not. Believe me, you have to pay me money to set foot inside Jack Trice, especially when there's a bunch of Iowa State fans. So no. The tailgate was enough, especially after I told a yo mama joke to someone who was literally half my age and almost started a fight. That's enough. That's enough. In fact, it has been 20 years. 20 years since I was last at a game at the Jack Trice. That was the year 2001 that had been postponed on account of 9/11. And it's too bad because at that point in the season, in September 2001, Iowa was a lot better than Iowa State. But Iowa State was improving, and they would continue to improve. And by the end of that season, it was a much fairer fight. And if there's one thing I don't like, it's fair fights. All right? I want winnable fights. And it's really a bit of a bummer because I think we can all remember Grant Steen making what could have been a game-saving interception late in the fourth quarter, promptly fumbling it and letting Seneca Wallace run out the clock, and that was that. And it was just a game that fell out of our hands, and I vowed right then and there to never do that to my blessed Hawkeyes again. So I just don't go to the games and names. I just don't. Can't give Pollard those hard-earned dollars. I'm telling you, he brings in enough money with that. Nope, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm not going to get in trouble with ISU fans again. I'm not going to do it again. No. But that being said, he brings in enough money with that little cult atmosphere that they've got together. It's little brother status. And I'm going to tell you this, being a little brother is pretty lucrative because you always have an enemy that you can rally yourselves against. And that enemy is the best team in the state of Iowa. Go Hawks. All right. Hello, Further 001. That means you're the first of hundreds. That's awesome. Hi. Welcome. Ask me anything. Literally anything. Hopefully it's going to be about the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's why we're all here. But if we want to talk about LaCroix, we can talk about LaCroix too. It's all up to you. Is punting winning? Answer: when Tory Taylor does it, absolutely yes. Yes. And I was so proud to see our punt god win co-Big Ten special teams honors again, because he was an absolute weapon for the Hawkeyes. The reason Iowa State was not competitive in that game, especially in the second half, the defense had a lot to do with it, but they were also starting every single drive inside their 20-yard line, it seemed. And that's just a situation where you're not giving Iowa State, or really any opponent, as long as Tory Taylor's the one punting, you're not giving them an opportunity to get quick, easy points. And so when you can put them up against the wall like that with a ball hawk defense like the Hawkeyes have, ball hawk you is a real thing. It's almost unfair. It's almost too steep of a hill to climb just from the jump for, I would say, about 90% of the teams in college football. I mean, really, it sets the bar that high, and Torrey Taylor is a big part of that. So when Iowa punts like that, when Torrey punts like that, absolutely punting is winning, and never forget it. Never forget it. I love it. Don't you just love this? By the way, am I being smug? Absolutely. But this is what makes it fun. This is why we sit through the 7-win seasons. Why we sit through, the plodding running backs who somehow also can't break a tackle. Why we sit through those blowouts that get handed to us, in random towns like, I don't know, Tempe, Arizona, at night. But, we wait through that and just stay patient for seasons like this. It is, I think something special is starting to happen here. And I think the schedule is set up in a way that's really advantageous for the Hawkeyes, to the extent that, by the time December comes around, I think we're going to be even more excited for what's yet to come than we are right now. I think that is, I think there's really not a whole lot lurking on the schedule that is going to dampen our enthusiasm. We'll put it that way. All right, T-Wogs has a question. Welcome. Thanks for joining us as always. Why couldn't they wear their own colors? Correct. Had to steal one of Big Brother's colors to try to be cool. Okay, so let's talk about the black uniforms. They were setting themselves up for failure on a lot of levels. All right, first of all, if you voluntarily wear black in 95-degree heat in the middle of the afternoon in a 3-hour football game, that's on you, right? And I don't think they picked it because it's Iowa's color. I think that aspect of it is probably a little overblown, although it's the same situation as, it's sort of the same situation as the pink locker rooms, that if it gets you talking about it, then it must be good. It must be working, right? But just in general, black's a fun color to wear, especially for an athlete. You walk into the locker room, you see that black jersey, staring back at you, and you're like, oh yeah, it's on. I mean, it's cool when Iowa does it. It's cool that Hayden, like, his big rebranding thing for the team was, yes, it was a ripoff of the Steelers, but it was also an acknowledgement that gold is okay, but black looks cool. Black just looks cool. That is what it is. And it looks cool on me too, doesn't it? So, but they set themselves up for failure, because if you lose in those black uniforms, right, if you lose while you're wearing Big Brother's clothes without Big Brother's permission, you look like a fool. You look like a chump. And ISU got absolutely chumped out on Saturday. Everything that could have gone wrong for them did. They got chumped out on College Game Day, right? Well, one, they can't get College Game Day there without the Hawkeyes in town. Two, they don't have any big celebrities, so they had to go to Ashton Kutcher, noted Hawkeye, in Ames. Three, Iowa pounded them. That was not a competitive game. 4, Brock Purdy got benched. He came back. He should be in the NFL, right? He should be He should be making a whole lot of money, even if he's just a backup. He would probably be a backup at this point in the season, but he should be on an NFL sideline right now. Instead, he thought he could come back to Ames and finally deliver that one big victory that they've always really, really wanted. Oh, we're just so tired of the University of Iowa. And he got benched. He looked awful. He looked miserable. He looked like he didn't want to be on the field when ISU had the ball by the end of the third quarter. And so then in the fourth quarter, he wasn't on the field. Wish granted, baby. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong for Iowa State, everything that could have embarrassed them, happened. And that it feels really good to be on the side that's dishing that sort of embarrassment out. Yeah, I'm smug, but come on. This is what you wait for. This is what you want. All right, we got a question. Thank you, Iowa Brewers. Welcome back, by the way. And for those of you who are new here, remember to head on over to YouTube on the link where you're watching this. Click like, click subscribe. The more we get of that, the more we grow this community, and the more you guys can enjoy shows like this with your friends and fellow Hawkeyes. All right. What does Spencer need to change or improve before the heart of B1G play? That's an excellent question, and I think that we're going to be a lot closer to being able to answer that question with what we see over the next couple weeks. Kent State should be a situation where Petrus can make the sorts of throws that he wants to throw. Colorado State also, they're not good. They're objectively not good at football this year. Just got beaten by Vanderbilt. Really, really struggling. So that is a situation where, at the very least, we're going to have 4 games of seeing what Iowa wants its playbook to look like. And we're going to have 2 opponents where most of their play calls on offense, a decent amount of them should be successes just based solely on talent differential. And that was absolutely not the case against Indiana and Iowa State, to the point where you have to worry so much about how good that other team is that you go into like end game mode a whole lot earlier, right? Because you're terrified of mistakes in a way that you're not really going to be as terrified of against Kent State. You're just not. Things should be working too well. So we'll see on that. Sam's got a question, and I love it. How much can we rely on the takeaways? My positive spin is that teams will have to take chances to move the ball. Correct. And the Iowa defense will take the ball away when you take chances. Also correct. That's the Phil Parker, Kirk Ferentz philosophy distilled quite excellently right there. Thank you, Sam. But at the same time, turnovers are sort of a fickle thing. Can we count on Iowa's defense scoring 10 points a game? No, of course not. No, if that actually happened, if Iowa's defense actually scored like 18 touchdowns over the course of the season, it would garner a lot of attention nationally. They'd be like, it wouldn't be like, what a good job they're doing. It would be, did Iowa break football? Right? Like, is this defense too good? Should we make things like a lot harder for them? That aspect of Iowa's victories is probably going to adjust itself to a very high level of play, but it's not going to be as wickedly destructive for the other team. Probably. Now, I'm really worried for what Kent State and Colorado State are going to have to do against that defense. Their quarterbacks are not in for good days. They're not. But, at the same time, opposing offenses are already looking at what the Iowa defense is doing. And one saying like, well, okay, if they're, it's not like they give up 0 yards. So we see where Iowa State moved the ball. Yeah, that was against a prevent defense almost exclusively, but there are ways to challenge them too, and also they're able to look at the plays that didn't go well. They're able to see why Riley Moss was able to just stroll into the end zone twice and say, like, okay, so if they're queuing off of this, then we shouldn't be throwing that pass, right? It's all tremendous, like 5-dimensional chess that happens. So for a variety of reasons, up to and including just plain luck, I don't expect the takeaways to be as much of a factor in how dominant the defense is. But it still will be a factor, right? It's not like they've hit their interception quota already, and now they have to just wait out the rest of the season. They're still going to be trying, and not only do the opponents know that this is a defense that is predicated on taking the ball away, but they know that the opponent knows, right? And so they can make their own adjustments. And what would have been a safer play in week 1 or week 2, a safe play for Indiana, someone else tries that, they might get it taken to the house again. So it's one of my favorite aspects of football, that coaching chess that happens. Cody Hills, welcome. He is Cody's the guy who puts together that NCAA 14 automated or computer run simulation of the season. And Cody, I think we're going to have to talk with EA because they got that Iowa State game wrong. They I didn't happen to see in your live play Brock Purdy getting benched. Didn't happen. So clearly, by the time NCAA football as a series comes back, they're going to have to adjust a few things. But Cody asks when to buy tickets to Indy. I say right now, just do it now. I love spending other people's money like that. Do I have tickets to Indy? No, but you should. David asks, remember when Matt Campbell quit on his team? Why did he do that? Why did he indeed? Thank you, David. I think that's an excellent question and one that probably deserves a little bit more inspection, right? Because Iowa State had opportunities to try to keep chipping away at that lead in the third and fourth quarters, and they were just punting until it was too late. And I know that the Iowa defense is difficult, and I know that they didn't really have a whole lot of reason to be scared of the Iowa offense for whatever that's worth. They just weren't. I mean, that is a good Cyclone defense. It's the only good one in the Big 12. But it sure seemed like Matt Campbell was not coaching to win the game in the second half. He benched Brock Purdy, right? And, that new guy was Decker's. Okay, he can throw some crossing routes against a team that's playing, 3 or 4 guys back on every snap. And maybe doesn't realize that is exactly what Iowa wants Iowa State to do. Just keep that clock ticking and ticking and ticking. But yeah, I think for as good of a coach as Matt Campbell is, and he's a good coach, and he has earned the national attention that he's gotten. As good as he is, he's also Kirk Ferentz's son, and not a son that Kirk wants. But he has to call Kirk daddy. And he just, not only can he not beat him, but often it's not close. It's usually not close. And a season like this just only accentuates how big that gap is. And we're talking about one of the best teams in the Big 12, right? And it's still technically a power conference. So whole lot of introspection needs to happen in Ames because of that. And I think it'll be interesting to see how ISU plays the rest of the year. I hope that they run the table. I hope that they actually hold up their end of the bargain and make Iowa's win this past Saturday keep looking good for the rest of the year. I don't have confidence in them doing that because it's Iowa State, but I hope they do. I hope they do. Hello, Joe, the dad of picks. Welcome. Glad you're here. At Jack Tri Stadium, I wanted to share two fun things. One, the air audibly went out of the stadium after Iowa's versus TD. That's funny because that was about the first time in the game that I actually thought that Iowa looked like they had a chance to win the game at all, right? Prior to that, the offense looked bad. The defense looked malleable. It looked like it in the very, early part of the game. It sort of looked like this was going to be another one of those early 2000s types of games where Iowa should be doing better than this, but they're not, and it's Ames, and the crowd is getting feisty again. All those things, all those memories were getting dredged up pretty substantially early on. And then, many were upset with Tory Taylor. Man, you should be. Because that is, you should, normally you like it when the opposing team sends out their punter. It means you're getting the ball back. But again, this isn't just a punter, it's Tory Taylor. And he is an absolute weapon. And to this day, and I realize that this doesn't lend it any legitimacy whatsoever. I'm fully aware of what I'm about to say. But that very last punt, from watching on TV, I could have sworn Taylor put it out of bounds inside the 5. They called it a touchback. There was never any there's never any controversy about it. But what I will say is Gary Dolphin and Ed Podolak were thinking the exact same thing on the radio. And maybe it's just how the camera was, but it sure looked like he had finished off that game by putting them in hell. And it sure seemed like the officials were just like, we can't do this to them, right? we got to throw them a bone of some sort. Now, again, nobody on the field was questioning it all. So maybe it actually was a touchback, but I really, really wish that he would have been able to finish that game with the most devastating punt possible. Because again, like he said, he was the MVP. Absolutely. And I look forward to more games of him being the biggest weapon on the field for the Hawkeyes. I mean, it just is what it is. David, what is up, old friend? At what point and at what game did pundits stop calling Iowa's turnovers luck? Does it take 7 straight games with positive turnover margins? Where's that threshold? Excellent question, David. Welcome. Hope you're doing well, by the way. And for those of you who have just stopped into this stream for the first time or recently, make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and make sure you join this fun little community right over here. Look at that. Look at how many people are chatting. Those are all Hawkeye fans. This is our community. This is our place. And you get to look at me. Oh, what a joy for you. I mean, every morning when I look in the mirror, I'm like, man, I get to have this face. I know, right? It's unbelievable. But welcome, one and all. The bigger this community grows, the more fun we have chatting with each other. So click like, click subscribe, type in your questions, and we love to see it. To actually answer David's question before we head on to Joe here, another old friend. I mean, turnovers are kind of inherently lucky. It doesn't take away from the value of them, and clearly it's not all luck, clearly, but there is, part of it that just sort of, you can't necessarily depend on, say, a ball bouncing off a receiver's hands and up into the air, right where Riley Moss can get it and take it to the house. It's fun when it happens, and Iowa's defense is very, very good at making the most of those situations. But again, like, those are factors that have very little to do with what Iowa's defense does. Those are mistakes that the other team is making. And, you either can or can't capitalize on those mistakes. And Iowa's defense is just so good at capitalizing on them that it can't only be luck. But there are going to be some days where maybe the ball bounces a slightly different way and the other team hops on more of them. There might be a day where Spencer Petras throws 3 interceptions. It just is what it is. I mean, as a wise man once said, that's football. And then he chewed his gum and took notes. This is an excellent question. Another good one from Joe. Is he going to, again, when USC offers him for some reason, I assume we're talking about Matt Campbell. If you're Matt Campbell, do you take the USC job? The uniforms are already exactly the same. So, we want to talk about Iowa State stealing Iowa's uniforms for last Saturday's game. They've been ripping off USC for decades, right? So you might as well go to where those uniforms actually came from in the first place, and coach for the real deal. It would just be my thoughts, my guess. They were either ripping off USC or McDonald's. Pick your, pick one. So I don't know. I don't know where, is USC a good job? Probably. But we're seeing so many situations recently where, whether it's booster culture or what, Florida State doesn't look like a good job anymore, and it's not like they're lacking for resources. Texas, that seems like a dumpster fire. UCLA, yuck. USC has the most going for it of any team in the Pac-12, up to and including Oregon, but it's not a guaranteed winner. And I'm not really sure why that is, but you have to be really, really careful that you're not walking into what should be a prestigious job, but what in actuality is a time bomb along the lines of your FSU, your Texas, Miami. Oh my God, Miami. Even to a lesser extent, Virginia Tech, although I think they're all right. Michigan, Nebraska. I can't believe I didn't lead with Nebraska on that one. But yeah, there are a lot of programs where they just keep tripping over their own shoelaces. And the word I want to say is not shoelaces. And it sure seems like USC is starting to trip like that. So I'd be a little bit worried about taking that job. That's just my thoughts, but I'm also very risk averse. So Sam has another question. Is it reasonable to say if we don't see significant positive progression by the offense in the Maryland game, or, up to the Maryland game, we're in trouble? Shot back with a couple easier games to get things sorted out. Yeah, that's another thing, is I just want to see this offense get into a groove, whatever that looks like. And we saw a little bit of that in the second quarter against Iowa State. But by and large, they're not moving the ball with much regularity yet. And part of that is we've only seen them against really good defenses. And really 2 of the top, what do you want to say, 3 defenses that they're going to face all year? 4 at most. Because I think only Penn State and Wisconsin are similarly beefy like that, and you could really make the case that Iowa State's better than both of them on defense. So I don't want to panic yet, because I don't think that we've seen them in a situation where a good level of success should be expected. And we are going to see that over the next couple weeks. I also do want to see them do it against a Big Ten opponent, and Maryland, like you mentioned, is right there. I'm still terrified of that game, by the way. Friday Night Lights, that is a situation where everybody is going to be aching for Iowa to eat that massive upset. And it really would be like oh, this season's going to be a lot of fun. Like, we're going to be the bad guys in that game. Absolutely. There are so many people in the nation who will be actively rooting against Iowa at Maryland. And so it's going to be really funny when Iowa blows them out too. Got to embrace that heel. All right. Is Kent State the game where Johnson and Bruce get some run? It feels like this team needs some more dynamic options at wide receiver. Sir, are you suggesting that Max Cooper is? I don't know if I can agree with that. Charlie Jones looks okay. I like what he does on the field, but yeah, I agree. I think I was expecting to see more of Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce the fourth by now, but a big part of that is these were high-value games. These were not the games that typically would start the season and typically would be where you see, true freshmen starting to come on their own and turn the attention that they get from coaches in practice into playing time. I hope the answer is yes. I hope so, because both of them are really, really exciting options, especially for their youth at wide receiver. And I would like to see a lot more of that in play. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily the receiver's fault that the Iowa passing game has been as anemic as it is. Again, we're talking about two really excellent secondaries that Iowa's had to face. And, if they're not open, or if Petrus is under orders not to try to throw anybody open, then, we can sit here and be like, this isn't working with these guys. But I don't know. Would you rather Bruce and Johnson be running routes and not have Petrus even looking their way? And that was sort of the way that Iowa was running their passing offense the last couple of weeks. So whether they're on the field or not, I'm not really sure that it makes a whole lot of difference yet. That being said, for their own sake, yeah, I want to see them on the field. I want to see what they can do. And I want to see them be put into position to succeed. And really anyone who gets on that field, I want to see them succeed. And I think that we're going to have a better chance of seeing that against our yearly sacrifice in Kent State. Same feelings during the Rutgers game we had last year. Yeah. Rutgers is a great example. Wait, did we play Rutgers last year? I'm already drawing a blank. Listen, guys, it's 8:30. Oh man, I'm already getting tired. Yeah. Here's a question from David. Don't think that USC can get away with special black uniforms, so that'd be hard to deal with. Yeah, you're right. That's a deal breaker. One, I think they would riot in Southern California if USC ever came out in black. But two, gosh, who can you rally the team against? Who can you rally the fan base against? Who's your big boogeyman if you're already USC? I mean, yeah, the USC-UCLA rivalry is big, but there's so many ISU fans who just hate Iowa. And that's their whole thing. It's their whole personality, which is weird to base your whole identity off of somebody else, but take that for whatever it is. And that is a dynamic that's really, really easy to capitalize on. And Matt Campbell gets that. That might sound like a backhanded compliment, but it's not. whatever you can do, whatever it takes to successfully like whip a fan base into shape, it usually actually pays off. And Campbell and ISU are great at really furthering that and nurturing it. And I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed at how they do that. I don't think you can do that at USC. who's your big boogeyman? UCLA is maybe getting back to good. Maybe Oregon. I don't know if there's any animosity there. If anything, I feel like Oregon probably hates USC more than vice versa. But I also don't know their dynamic too well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Certainly, it would be a different environment, a different coaching environment for Campbell than what he's gotten used to here and what he seems to enjoy here. So that's something for them to keep in mind too. We've got one from Dan's dad. Team has nothing to lose by letting our second and third string quarterbacks play a lot more in the next 2 weeks. Well, I mean, yes, for the next 2 weeks, just as a way to get additional guys on the field, sure. Yeah. But, Petrus is the team's captain. He is where all the oxygen goes in the room. And everyone in Iowa City involved with the program itself is happy with his performance. And, it's I'm not sure I share that sentiment, but I also don't have access to the information that they have, right? I don't know as much about what they wanted him to do, what success will look like, what mistakes he didn't make. I don't know those things. And so if they're happy with him, and by all accounts they are, I mean, by all accounts they love the guy, then, I want to see Padilla out there because it would be fun. I want to see Deuce Hogan out there because it would be fun. But I don't think that there's any reason to believe that whether or not they get any run in the next couple weeks, that is going to have more or less of an effect on the rest of the season, on what we're going to see out of Petrus. I don't think there's going to be a competition, and unless he really, really throws games away, that's not going to happen this year. That's just what I've gotten from everything that's been said. So, it's Notre Dame for USC. Yes, of course. Yes. That's their big rival. But in a weird way, that's more analogous to Iowa State, especially because it's not a conference tilt at all. But you can see why they don't like each other, and some of it's on field, some of it's cultural. Like, okay, now you're talking me into Campbell going to USC because he can absolutely make hay out of that rivalry. They should dislike each other, and they do. Okay, all right. I think we're there. Here's one. Who would win Iowa Hawkeyes 1985 or Iowa Hawkeyes 2021? That is an excellent question. Okay. First of all, I want to know what everybody else thinks. I have a joke answer, but let's go ahead and ask the audience. So let me see some ones in the chat if you think it's the 85 team. Let me see some twos in the chat for this year's team. And we can do a very highly scientific poll that way. My answer would be obviously the 2021 team, because the 1985 team, they're all coming up on 55, 60 years old. They can't run. They can't throw. And it's also like stuff like that is tough because lines were smaller in 1985. Like, linemen were a lot smaller. If you were 270 pounds, you were a behemoth back then. But, so did you adjust for that or not? Like, it's sort of the same thing as like, oh yeah, the basketball team in the 70s versus basketball teams today. Well, I mean, they didn't have a 3-point line in the 70s. So so how do you account for that? Do you ignore it? Do you not ignore it? So I don't know how to I'm really not sure how to answer that question. I think the 85 team was so good and so loaded that compared to their peers, I think that is so far has shown itself to be a better team than what the 2021 team has shown thus far. That being said, we've only seen 2 games out of this team. And so the things that we're worried about may or may not be like really, really serious problems, right? So we've got more 1s than 2. Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what the season is going to look like yet. We don't know. I mean, we can guess that the defense is the big thing, but I mean, we don't even know who the MVP on offense is going to be yet. Like maybe it's Laporta, maybe it's Goodson, maybe it's Petrus yet. We don't know. And now we're getting into like the really, really awful questions. Who would win Hawkeyes 99 or Nebraska 2021? Oh, yuck. You know who would win? Nobody. Not the viewers, not anyone who would televise a game like that. There are no winners when Nebraska football in 2021 is concerned. 2021 would beat 1985, but with relation to competition, exactly. Hard to go against 1985. Yeah, and no. 2021 Nebraska isn't beating the 99 Hawks. No. Stop it. We don't talk like that here at the Iowa Sports Review. But yeah, like Joe says, quarterback play helps the 85 team because, they had Chuck Long, who was ridiculous and who in most years would have been the Heisman winner. I don't begrudge the fact that Bo Jackson won it because it's Bo Jackson, but it was close, and it the fact that anybody was close to Bo Jackson in the Heisman race just underlines how good of a quarterback Chuck Long was. He was great. He was so good. So, and I this might be a bold hot take here, but I don't think Spencer Petrus is as good as Chuck Long is yet. I really meant the 4-8 too. Well, I mean, yeah, because most of the 85 Hawkeyes are very old and probably have bad joints at this point. So, I mean, what do you expect? That's fun. All right. Okay, it is about 10 minutes until 9 p.m. For those of you who have just recently joined us, welcome. This is the Iowa Sports Review. I am your host, Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. We are celebrating another big win for the Hawkeyes over Iowa State. We are looking forward to Kent State, an opponent that I know nothing about. I mean, really what I could do is just go on a riff for about 30 minutes of entirely fictional names and players on Kent State, which was founded by Kent Jacobi, former Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher, made the pillbox hat especially fashionable, that and aviator glasses. Kent Jacobi, quite an academic man as well. No, I know nothing about Kent State. I'm not even going to pretend to know about Kent State. It's my approach to today's or to this week's game is very similar to when the Dream Team was together in 1992, and somebody asked Charles Barkley about their next opponent, who was Angola. And Charbar's answer was, I don't know nothing about Angola, but I know they're in trouble. I always love that quote. And I don't know nothing about Kent State, but I know they're about to take an L on Saturday. They're called the Golden Flashes. Neat. I don't know what a golden flash is. How can a flash be golden? I know that like they have a bird in their logo, but again, a golden flash is not a bird. Just like a cyclone, not a bird. Hawkeye, okay, I guess technically a Hawkeye is not a bird either, but at the very least it says Hawkeye, or it says Hawk in the name. So we have that. It's a part of a bird. So that's already better than the Golden Flashes. Quinn, who's actually doing a little bit of scouting here. Quinn, I'm just going to take your word for it that what you're telling me is accurate. They're a big RPO team, either going to get an interception or allow a touchdown on defense. Yeah, RPO stuff is I'm a big fan of it. It's a dicey proposition when you're the less talented team. And it's dicey because it is predicated on two things. One, putting linebackers in a position to basically have to choose a target. And if they choose, whichever one they choose, play off of it. It's in that sense, it's similar to, say, a triple option. But, it's with different play calls and ball moving all over the field as opposed to, quarterback pitch or handoff or anything like that. But it also depends on blocks being kept for some X amount of time, right? It sort of doesn't matter what linebackers' assignments are if you can't run between the tackles, right? And if your blocking doesn't hold up, you can try to get as funky as you want with the play calls, but at the end of the day, your quarterback's just going to get hit over and over again. And that's not fun for 3 hours. It's not even fun for 2 hours. But those RPO plays, when they're executed perfectly, are a lot of fun. And when they get blowed up, they get blowed up good. And I know Iowa's defense is really going to be excited for an assignment like that, if what you're telling me is correct. I have no reason to believe it's not correct. I have no idea about Kent State. No idea at all. Just that I know one thing about, Sam says, I know one thing about Kent State, and it's not fun to talk about. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Murder is not fun. That's my bold take of the day. Yeah. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I do want to see what happens when a decidedly outmatched team goes against the Hawkeyes. I want to see what happens when Iowa doesn't have to tone thing. What's a good way to put this? I want to see what happens when most of Iowa's offensive play calls are going to be successful because the offensive line isn't running for their lives on every snap. And I think that we're going to get closer to that than we were in the first couple weeks. So, I'm really, really excited for the game too. Quinn says they ran for 250 yards against Texas A&M. Ooh. Only team in the nation ahead of Iowa in interceptions. They have 8. We have 6. Need an eye discipline game from the linebackers. Yep, absolutely. And fortunately, I would take the discipline of Campbell, Benson, Jacobs, Belton, and for that matter, the members of the secondary. I will take their level of discipline every time because, boy, they're good. They're so good. And the defensive line does such a great job of keeping them upright and unblocked. I cannot say enough about the front seven or the front eight, as it might be for the Hawkeyes. They're good. They're really, I'm sorry that, it's sort of like saying ice is cold or fire is hot, but they're so good. And it's fun to watch. Oh, man. As Dan says, you really need to be careful about the chance against Kent State. Yeah. Honestly, they're a MAC team, right? So just do your basic stuff. Just do raw sports football, yay! That's all you have to do. That's I want one of those pennants that just says raw on it. Do they still make those? The most generic possible, just put a football on a pennant and put it on a stick so I can wave it at a game. Because apparently this has just turned into 1956 in my mind. Yeah. And the Kent State quarterback, who I'm just going to assume that Kent State's quarterback's name is Kent State. I'm just going to call him Kent State. Maybe Kenneth State. I'm Kenneth State and I'm a quarterback. Call them the Zips the whole time. Yeah, why not, man? One sacrifice is just as good as any other. Now Iowa's going to lose because I'm being smug online. No, but yeah, I'm excited for the game, and if Kent State, the man, is as dynamic as people are worried about, then yeah, it might actually be in a weird way a fun and challenging assignment for the defense. But I do think that we're going to see a good level of production from both sides of the ball. I do think it's going to be a relatively drama-free victory. Easy is a relative term because not much about football is easy. It hurts. It's a collision sport. And if you're even going at 90%, you can get blasted pretty good even by a MAC team. But I do think that in a way this is going to provide the level of challenge that Iowa's defense needs to keep their level of intensity up for as long as it needs to be. And when they're playing intense, like we've seen the first 2 weeks where they, got thrown straight into the fire, turns out they loved that. They have so much fun on defense that I really am looking forward to seeing them have more fun. And that's a luxury that not a whole lot of football programs have at any given point. So I think we're pretty well spoiled by having Phil Parker around. And I don't think that we need to rehash my really hot take from this past weekend, which is that Phil Parker might be better than Norm. But it's certainly up there. And Quinn asks, best Iowa defense since the 2008 Capital One team against LSU. Whoa, that 2008. Oh, yeah. That team was legit too. No, the 2008 was the Outback, South Carolina. But they were, if we're talking Capital One, LSU, the 2004 team, that defense was also an absolute menace. I'll take 2009 though. The watching Adrian Claiborne by himself single-handedly take away half of a field for a triple option team is one of the most incredible things I've ever witnessed. And I think 1-11 or 1-12 or 1 down to 20 in terms of talent on the defensive side of the ball, I think I would still take this team. I mean, there's just so much playmaking ability in a way that we haven't seen in a while. I really think that. Well, I was about to say that you have to go back to the days of Greenway and Hodge, but I think that this team reminds me more thus far reminds me a little bit more of when they had the Kirksey, Hutchins, and the gentleman in the middle. I'm completely blanking on the middle linebacker. Who was that middle linebacker? Remember that trio that all went to the NFL? And Hutchins and Kirksey are still in the NFL, by the way. Who was that middle linebacker? His dad was the shoe guy. No, not Humble. Like the 2012 team. How am I blanking on this? Morris, yes. Yeah, the Hitchens, Kirksey, Morris trio. That is the best linebacking trio that I can remember in the Kirk Ferentz era. And right now, I think that we're right at that level with the linebackers that Iowa has now. I mean, I can't say enough about Campbell, about Benson, about Jacobs. I don't know how you. I really don't envy how the Iowa defense has to somehow create a rotation with these guys, because it means that someone's going to have to be on the bench. Yes, thank you, James Morris. I can't believe that name was just not coming to me. I almost called him Dylan Doyle. That's not fair. That's a name that we're just not going to mention. No, that's again, this is a luxury that a whole lot of teams don't have, and it just so happens to be a luxury that we as Iowa fans get over and over and over, and we can thank the level of continuity that is enjoyed when you have, two defensive coordinators over 21, 22 years, and they're as good as the Parker gentleman. It's such a nice problem to have, and it's fun to watch, and I'm really, really looking forward to see how that fun plays out on the field. So yeah, Hodge and Greenway. I don't remember the third. Fred Barr. I think it was Fred Barr, right? Or it that might have also changed. I think there was Kevin Hodges in there too. But yeah, Sam, I completely agree. The depth of talent right now can be compared with any Ferentz team on offense and defense. Top level talent, boy, especially on the lines. The lines are only going to get scarier over the next couple years. They're going to miss Tyler Linderbaum when he goes pro, and that's going to be pretty quick. But in terms of who they have coming in, it's not. I'm just going to say this right now. For the next 5 years, it is not going to be fun to play the Hawkeyes for opposing teams, and it's not going to be fun because they're going to get back to that bully ball. The bullies of the Big Ten, monsters of the Midwest. Those lines on both sides of the ball are going to hurt people. And football is a hurting sport. Oh boy, I can't wait. I can't wait, Sam. I absolutely agree with that. Oh yeah, David Goff. Yeah, the guy that said no thanks to Michigan. I'm going to go where I can actually develop. Yeah, Edmund Miles. He was also in there too. Yeah. Boy, I'm telling you, this is a supremely talented team by Iowa standards, certainly. And I really don't care about the recruiting stars. I don't, because they've shown time and time again that they have earned the benefit of the doubt in terms of identifying the types of players who can do exactly what their roles are supposed to be in that defense, and they do it exceedingly well. And this is ball hawk U, baby, right? This is their nectar. This is their bread and butter. They they force turnovers. They force a lot of turnovers. And it's not just by falling on a ball. They will make you throw a pass you don't want to throw, and they will run it straight back on you. Ball hockey is real, and it sends quarterbacks to the bench to just pout their way through the rest of the game while it sims to finish. That's ball hockey, baby. Oh yeah. So all right, we have crossed 9 o'clock, and I'm afraid it's some of y'all's bedtime, especially, this being a school night and all, school year. Football is a hurting sport. Parents put that sign up in the weight room. Yeah, it's high praise. It's high praise. But, at the end of the day, you're either the one getting hurt or the one dealing out the hurting. So I'm glad Iowa has chosen wisely. So anyway, like I said, it's time to get you critters off to bed. But gosh, 2-0, number 5 in the nation. It was 5, right? Yeah, right behind Nora. I mean, we're already seeing the type of results that we were hoping for. We are already having our optimism rewarded. And you just gotta swim in it, right? This is a moment that you have to embrace for what it is, and I think this whole situation is only going to get brighter over the next couple weeks, and that's when the fun really, really begins. But this is what we wait for. This is what we hope for. This is the big time. And it's a lot of fun, and I'm happy to share it all with you. One more time before I go, make sure to head on over to the YouTube. Make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe. Love to see all of y'all's faces, or at the very least your dogs in your icons. I like to see your names on the screen, and like to keep this community going because it feels good. And it's a lot of fun. And what a joy it is to share it all with you. So with that, let's get psyched for Kent State. Let's get psyched for another exciting week of football. And, hopefully let's get psyched for 3-0 and an even better ranking and onward and upward. So with that, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us at the Iowa Sports Report. My name is Adam Jacobi of Go Iowa Awesome. Always great to see you guys. Have a lovely rest of your night, a lovely rest of your week. I'll be talking to y'all after the game. With that, Go Iowa Awesome. Go Hawks. Good night.